Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a cornerstone of ISW's success and a true leader in digital transformation, Dmitry Burets, one of ISW's principals and director of professional services. His journey in the tech industry spans over 2 decades, during which he has developed a reputation for guiding organizations through complex digital transformations and helping them harness the power of custom automation solutions to unlock new efficiencies. At ISW, Dmitry leads our professional services division, focusing on delivering seamless, scalable, and highly effective solutions for our clients. In this episode, we'll explore Dmitry's career journey, his approach to building successful client relationships, and his vision for the future of automation. Welcome to Inside ISW, and welcome to Dmitry. I wanted to know if you could walk us through your career journey. What started you in enterprise content management?
Thanks, Steve. Great introduction. Couldn't have
You're
said it better
welcome.
myself. My journey really started in 2006, back at Fiserv, where I joined the Nautilus support team. So I basically started my journey with the support team, just trying to kind of learn and interact with customers, listen to the issues. The benefit of starting there is I got to hear all kinds of issues, interesting stories, all the pain points and things that, customers and were dealing with. So spent quite a bit of time in my support role, expanding my skill set, and most importantly, listening, right? I think that's
Right.
one of the benefits that support position did teach me, is basically listening for key pieces of information that sometimes customers are not even able to explain what the problem is, but just by explaining what they're trying to accomplish, you learn how to connect the dots.
Right.
So I did start in support, and after a few years there, I started kind of blending into the implementation role. So I got to do installations, new add-on projects, things like that. Did quite a bit of traveling to customer sites, a lot of it in person prior to COVID
Right.
timeframe. Yes. Did that quite a bit, and then eventually transitioned from the implementation side to a consulting side, where I was more direct with the customer, listening to the problems, working on improving their situation or their efficiencies. And then transitioned to the MTS software from Fiserv, joining us at the consultant role as well. Being a smaller company, I did get to do still some support, some implementations, and some consulting. So that's the piece that kind of drives me, is that not having just something consistent or repeatable that I have to do. Pretty much every day is new. Every day I go in and I can see a new issue or try to figure out a way to solve something that's not very repeatable. So that drives me to continuously learning new things.
I'm curious, what brought you to Fiserv? Were you always interested in technology? Did you go to college for technology, MIS, computers? Like, how'd you end up at Fiserv?
Well, I always liked technology. My degree's in networking. I also have a computer science bachelor, but my specific degree that I was following is networking. So initially when I went to Fiserv, I kind of knew they did have a lot of hands-on. So I don't know if I was going to stay with the ECM platform or just get my feet and, get in the door and then possibly, expand more IT role or something like that. Initially going in, I had no idea that I would be there for 16, 15 years and expanding my knowledge, and it's something completely different than I'm used to. But it's funny, it all plays a hand. So, I had to rely quite a bit on my background in networking and computer knowledge, right? Server side stuff to help me with the ECM components.
Yeah, I mean, it's because you know so much, from integration to developing. Were you a developer at all? Because you
I
have that
was not a
knowledge.
developer.
No, because you have all of that knowledge today, but you started in networks. I'm curious, like just building networks or?
Hardware. So network, the switches, routers, setting up firewalls, setting up trust between different domains. That's what I was focusing on in school, coming out, connecting basically all these remote places, to a single hub. So That's kind of where I started.
Because that's where everything was at that point in time. Everybody's connecting, getting ISDN lines and fiber optics, T1 lines, and setting us up for the future. So then you came to Fiserv. You started to learn about enterprise content management. Fiserv's a pretty big company, isn't it? There's so much more that Fiserv does, from core banking systems. I mean, I look at it today, it's incredible. So is enterprise content management a big division at the time, or what did that look like when you first joined?
Well, it wasn't that big. It was probably one of their smaller divisions, but it was something that was booming, growing very fast. That concept of content management or electronic content management was blowing up at that point in time. Our team pretty much doubled in size over the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Mhm.
I think it was a Fortune 300 company during that time.
And then you joined MTS Software, and with MTS, much smaller company. So how was that change for you?
I did enjoy. That's sort of one of the negatives, right? Being at a larger company, you kind of have a feeling where you're a number. You go in, you clock in, you do your work, you clock out. Coming to MTS software, that was a smaller company. You have a team of 8 folks that you're working with, and it's a much smaller kind of a family atmosphere. You have many hats that you wear, because now I'm not just focusing on implementation or consulting. I'm doing support, consulting, implementation, whatever is needed from the customer side. Your voice is heard. So if there's change of things that you want to do, your opinion is incorporated into those decisions, which was a huge change for me.
Right, and then you moved over to ISW Softworks, which you're a principal at ISW. So does that mean you were part of the acquisition team or the team that bought that division from MTS? How did that work?
Yeah, a few of our core partners had the opportunity to purchase the company. The owner of TS Software was trying to retire, so he's looking to sell that portion of the company. Us being well versed, we felt that we would really benefit from having that opportunity. We, got together with the key partners, and we were able to make that happen. So now, well, we really do make the decisions, right? So,
Did you envision yourself heading up professional services or heading up a business or the side of the business of professional services when you first started at Fiserv? Was that your goal, or did that just evolve?
ugh, I think at some point I didn't envision myself running a department or having a higher role. I know it's hard for me. I'm kind of a techie at heart, so it's hard to
Mhm.
disconnect from the day to day piece. So always thought it would be, but I didn't think it would happen the way it did. The cards just played right, and things happened very quickly. So definitely happy.
Yeah. So from what I've noticed on calls with customers, it's amazing how you and the customer are speaking the same language. I deal a lot with banks and credit unions, and we come on, we talk about Fiserv Nautilus or Director. And when I get involved, they start talking about the technical aspects and some of their challenges. Then I bring you into the call. And every time you smoothly interject, this is what you could do. These are the features you could take advantage of, that you understand where they're at. You have so much knowledge, and they love to see that, and they appreciate that knowledge. They appreciate you know what they do, because sometimes I think we forget how small our world is. Like, this is just enterprise content management of this huge banking core system that a lot of people use for storage and don't really get into the complete benefits of the solution, which is intense. But you have a way of making people feel very calm, no matter the situation. Even if their server's down, they've lost everything, you calmly get them back up to where they want to be, and your knowledge impresses them. So, what drives you in your work now at ISW?
I would say probably growth and knowledge. I always strive to learn more, find a new way to, accomplish something. Being in this type of field, there's so many different ways of getting to a finish line, to a goal. So being able to be creative and think outside the box and get something resolved that's not intended to be resolved, or maybe in a position where customers doing something a certain way for so long that they just assume that that's
Right.
how it needs to be done. Being able to come in and show a different perspective and move that process forward. I think that's what kind of keeps me motivated.
So was there anybody who kind of inspired you either to pursue a career in networking or at ISW, Fiserv or ISW? Was there any mentor that you had throughout your career that encouraged you along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously Ross Smith is, I would call him my mentor for sure. He was the one that I eventually reported to once I left the support team at Fiserv. I reported directly to Ross. He was running the implementation team at Fiserv. I started as an installer, then consultant, and so on under him. When we parted ways, he came to MTS Software. He actually did reach out to ask if I would be interested in joining MTS. I definitely jumped right on. He's done a lot of the things that I've kind of done or started to do. So
Right.
kind of see myself following in his footsteps and, running a implementation team or professional services team here.
So have you applied some of the key concepts that he had back when he was managing the whole team with your team today, or how you work today at ISW?
I definitely reuse some of the concepts. We are trying to be more EOS driven here at ISW, but as far as relationships, communication, and motivating the team, encouraging them to kind of branch out, because that was kind of one of the things that I felt that Roz did great is he challenged me in a way where he was still there assisting, but he made me find the answer. He helped me
Right.
drive myself. And I think I learned that, and I'm trying to use that with the team that we have here.
Your team specifically, I feel like you're the Navy SEALs of the Navy, kind of the special forces. We do a lot of work with Fiserv, and I see them as the Navy in the sense of they're huge. And then there's this little area, enterprise content management, which is OnBase, so they call it Nautilus, director. And in that area, we have such expertise. All the people on your team know that system in and out. Either they've worked at Fiserv or they've worked with OnBase, which is the supporting platform of Nautilus and Director for many years. There's a tremendous amount of expertise, and you have the ability to move quickly and getting into a project, getting that project complete on time and on budget. Can you share some of the key areas of that expertise at ISW, what you bring and maybe some of the other teammates?
Yeah, I think experience stands out the most. Having close to 20 years on average of ECM experience, and most of that with Fiserv core platforms helps a lot. We know those integrations. We were there when those integrations were being built. We know the ins and outs, how things operate. The other piece that helps is not only knowing the software, is having the technical and creative background. So we have the development side, we have the SQL database side. We can go to any one of the folks and help and assist with specific function. That's part of the piece that we get in. We normally have a key primary role person. So you may have somebody driving the project, but if there is a SQL question or a specific development question, we have other team members that we can go and get that work scheduled and tasked so we can continue down our discovery path while the technical or development side is being done in the background by another team member. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah, and I'll see that on calls too. Because no matter what situation we're involved with, there's always a quick solution you have, or one of your team members get on and, oh, you can do X, Y, and Z, and it takes care of the problem right away. Switching a little bit into some of the challenges and solutions from your perspective, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen our clients face and why they've come to ISW to help them with some of these challenges? What are those challenges?
Well, I would say a big challenge is sometimes not having a dedicated administrator of the system. You have a couple folks trying to fill that role, but nobody really owns that job.
Hmm.
What happens a lot of times when something is neglected, or maybe you're not following best practices all along, 10 years down the road, those small things are now big issues. Expertise in those, specific areas are needed, and not a lot of customers can afford to have a full-time administrator that's all they do. They focus, they make sure that the system's optimal, and that's their number one priority. So we do have to come in and, obviously it comes back to listening. We do have services like health checks where we go, we talk with the business, we talk to the technical folks, we talk to the administrators. So we kind of hear the pain points, and then we take a look at their system from the servers down to their database, and check the health of that system. And then basically, start providing recommendations on what they can do fairly quickly, the low hanging fruit. Also, the more complicated stuff like upgrades, adjusting their security, because they could be, vulnerable if they leave the system as is.
So I know I shared my thoughts, but why why do clients choose ISW over our competition?
I mean, I would definitely think our two biggest factors is our efficiency and the time on when we can jump in and get started. Our leeways are very short. And then you're not getting just a resource. You're getting basically an expert when you're starting to deal with that issue. So it's not like where you start logging tickets and then somebody else will call you back to try to help you with the problem. You're talking to the right people right from the kickoff call. I definitely think that's our biggest contribution, and our expertise. We've seen it all. So we're there that we can provide lessons learned and things like that from the other customers.
I think you're right on the money with that. I've heard a lot of customers feedback to the same of what you just said. Now, in your experience, what are some of the common mistakes that a lot of organizations make in beginning, calling it a digital transformation journey, but just with, say, enterprise content management? Like, what are those common mistakes, and what advice would you have to avoid some of the pitfalls or mistakes?
Some of them might sound as simple as changing default usernames and passwords. You'll be surprised how many times you get into a system 10 years, 20 years into the system, and they still have the same default passwords. Or, you have two kind of sides to this. Sometimes customers go too far into their taxonomy and their document types configurations, keyword configurations, where they break things down too granularly, where it becomes so hard to keep track of that a lot of the items are not used. So you have
Mhm.
this huge taxonomy and half of it is being utilized. The other side of that, you have everything thrown into one document type with three keywords. And then when you're trying to find something, it's a nightmare because everything is on their miscellaneous documents or correspondence. You can't get to the data you're really looking for. So you're just wasting most of the time searching. Those are pretty easy things to change, but a lot of times when you're starting off, that's where that partnership with a good ECM partner is very helpful. When you start off with the right taxonomy, you start off with the right keywords and your import processes, and you have the checks and balances for your autofills and your keyword data sets and things like that, where you're not just letting people freehand type and you have 7 variations of the same name because of spelling errors. Uh, that goes a long way with the project.
I've seen that and felt that on calls. It's as if the taxonomy is the blueprint, and then you and your team are the architects building off that blueprint, but that blueprint has to be laid out first. How does ISW approach helping clients who have systems and technology in place and need to make updates? What are some of the services that we leverage to bring our clients to a current state?
Yeah, so that's a good point. That's where we would do either a health check or a taxonomy creation. A lot of times when we go in and the customer's not sure what they have, we go in and we pull and we build basically a spreadsheet with all of their document types and keywords. We go through it department by department, kind of showing them this is what's being used, this is what's not being used. And then that kind of starts the conversation, which turns into multiple projects. The buzzword out there is retention. How many customers are aware or keep track of what their retention policies are? And having that spreadsheet of all your documents helps you get that going. You can set your policies, you can get those approved. And then once that is built, it's just about getting that implemented and configured in their system.
Do you feel that customers are leveraging workflow and the ability to create not only automation with their enterprise content management, but also applications? And what I mean by that is taking just data instead of documents and workflow and working with the data. Do you feel that clients are leveraging this, or are they working to get there? How mature are they in their process as far as you've seen and in your experience?
Yeah, I would say that's a lacking area. A lot of times we go in and customers have workflow, but are really not utilizing it or utilizing it to the very minimal just to accomplish one or few goals or checks. Workflow is a very powerful tool, not just for documents, but the data on those documents. A lot of those, checks and things that you're doing manually could be leveraged through workflow to automate that process, to only review exceptions versus the norm. So yeah, definitely want to see that being, utilized a lot more. And, that's kind of what we try to push our customers towards, right? If they have workflow, they're already paying for the license. They just need to use it.
A lot of customers I've seen are just storing documents there. Historically, I've always stored documents and do a little bit of workflow, either through merger and acquisitions or just things changing within their environment. A lot of the keywords, as you said, are changing and the document names and types. It seems like from what you said, that blueprint, that taxonomy becomes very important and lays that groundwork for, say, any future acquisition or merger. And then for the workflow, the true return on investment or the true power of the platform, which is to automate business processes and go towards the clients or the customer's digital transformation state, whatever that may be. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about change management at organizations. And I know change management can be a significant hurdle in executing projects. Culture at different customers and clients prohibits a lot of the change, right? Or could relate to training, but just the way that people have always done things. So we've heard of paperless office or no paper for, gosh, I've heard of it for 30 years, but it just seems like there's always a lot of paper. So change management can be a significant hurdle in executing these projects. Do you have, or can you share an example of where a client actually managed this particularly well and what that approach was?
Normally, we've been successful specifically around accounts payable concepts, just having all of the invoices and all of the paper that goes with those processes. There's always going to be users that are a little bit old school and they don't want to let go of the item. So even when it becomes paperless, they still hold on to the paper just in case they can't find it in the system. In accounts payable, it seems to be like a little bit of an easier transition than some other departments that we've seen. Users, they really like the custom query searches within Nautilus or OnBase, where you have the ability to see all the metadata or the keywords in columns that you can search and filter down. That becomes a lot more helpful than trying to find something in a file folder or in the filing cabinet.
Looking at advice for clients or organizations beginning their digital transformation journey, what are some of the first steps or best practices that you feel organizations that are just starting out can take on this automation journey?
Not being afraid of workflow and Unity forms. Those items can improve efficiency quite a bit. Like a lot of times even folks that are using Nautilus and OnBase on full scale, a lot of times they still have those checklists that they're
Mhm.
keeping in spreadsheets and they're keeping to the sides. Making those digital as well goes a very long way, because you can find them very easily within OnBase or Nautilus or in your system. Then you can also have them write the workflow. So when things are not checked off, when things are missing, you're aware of it. You have that audit trail versus you trying to figure out or find the checklist somewhere. So if you can make it digital, stop keeping track of spreadsheets and things that you may have sitting on the network share.
Is there a place to start for a lot of companies? Is there a particular quick return for a company in leveraging their enterprise content management?
I would definitely say you should use the system outside of its regular role. Like if you're in financials and you're bringing in your statements, checking, you can bridge your system into other departments. Anything that's paper could be placed into OnBase or Nautilus or into your system. So just being focused on, I am dealing with, statements or core processing. So that's all I do with my system, where I can have my accounts receivable, accounts payable, HR, all of those other departments that exist within your organization. They can leverage this top of the line, top of the food chain ECM platform called OnBase Nautilus. That's there. It's already paid for. So all that extra things that you're doing are all return on investments. One of the great parts about not being a direct vendor or, somebody that's Highland specifically, is that we can utilize other platforms to best fit customers' needs. We do quite a bit of work with Abby FlexiCapture. Abby, that is another one of those top of the food chain platforms that allow us to work for a lot of our lending customers or accounts payable receivable customers, where out of the box, the system is able to identify close to 80% of documents being processed. And then it streamlines all that user entry and getting it into the system is gone. So it can basically run the process and create a nice DIP file, a CSV file for your Nautilus or OnBase system to get imported, and then kick off workflows or whatever that needs to happen after it's ingested.
Every company's developing some sort of large language model, and understand Abby and other products that we use are built on that large data model. Is artificial intelligence influencing what we do for our clients at all yet, or is that still at the beginning of its maturity process?
Yeah, I would definitely think it's still at the beginning. I know that there are big plans in the works with Highland specifically around that search model and giving you the ability of searching within one system across multiple platforms and incorporating AI behind the scenes on how to relate these items together. But yeah, right now, probably I would say Abby is our biggest product that's leveraging AI, natively during the learning process, capture process for invoices and load documents.
Awesome. Well, as I said, I was very excited for this conversation, Dmitry, your wealth of knowledge. Before I let you go, what advice would you give to someone just starting their career in enterprise content management or automation? And what have you found to be the most enjoyable part of your journey?
Continue to learn with content management or specifically Nautilus, the amount of modules that exist or the amount of capabilities that's there. I would say it's probably closer to 600 modules that exist for that product. So don't stay in a box. Don't stay comfortable with the few items that are used. Continue to grow. There's a lot of tools and things out there for you to leverage, especially now with the internet, ChatGPT. You can definitely leverage that to expand your knowledge. And I think piece that I enjoy the most is kind of the camaraderie, not just internally to ISW, but then as well to our customers. A lot of the customers that we deal with, it's the same resources that we work with from the beginning to end. You definitely build a great partnership And that is definitely one of my favorite parts. Even when the project's completed, you have that contact and still reach out. And a lot of our repeat customers, they come back as you do build those trusts and those friendships.
Yeah, no, it's great to be part of and great to see. It is amazing because it's such a niche that we're in, this enterprise content management. I really don't think there's many of us around, but you and your team are such experts within the technology. As I said, we've been doing this for 20, 30 years. I'll go all the way back where MTS software was into microfilm and microfiche and converting that over to a digital format and then digital drives and jukeboxes. How big of a digital drive did you need? And then networks. Was it going to be token ring? Was it going to be Ethernet? The
Yeah.
protocols that you have and how that's developed the internet and its influence on the way that businesses run. I grew up with paper and then went right through that transition of how it converted over to a digital format and what's easier. We talked a little bit about change management, but it's been an amazing journey inside of enterprise content management. It's great to work as a team to just concentrate on one area, the technology within that area, and what we can do for customers. Again, it's a pleasure to have you here at Inside ISW. And thanks for joining us today, Dmitry.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me, Steve.
Awesome.